everyone, and welcome to Mr. Mo Franchise. It's MLB The Show 21, and it's the Colorado Rockies, and it's time for spring training. The way I handle spring training in my simulation is I simulate spring training. I don't play any of the games, but I do have random events that will occur during the spring training, and these events could bring positive things, negative things, or just different changes to the team as we prepare for the first season under Coach Mo for the Colorado Rockies in this rebuild. Spring training and random event number 1. Now this is the first season, so this is a non-random random event. And what I mean by that is this wasn't actually random. This was decided to start the franchise. After this, the random events will occur. So the president of baseball operations, a former scout, wants to trade away our 5 most expensive players. That was determined in the first episode. So the GM is going to orchestrate those trades. For each trade, it is based on the ranking of the GM. I have an A GM. So thus, I get to roll 5 baseball dice, and those baseball dice have the different teams on them. And from those 5 teams, I pick which team I want to make the trade for those players. Here are the results of the 5 trades. Let's start with trade number 1. Trevor Story, our best player. Well, he's in the last year of his contract, and he is clearly our best player. And our president of baseball operations doesn't want to re-sign him because we are in a full rebuild. So I rolled, and I had the Angels, the Brewers, the Braves, the Diamondbacks, and the Reds. And I decided to trade for the Reds. So here is that trade. So taking a look at Trevor Story, by far he's our best rated player. He's a 91 overall, 28-year-old in his prime. He's going to get paid a lot next year. Look at these stats. Look at that contact, that power, especially against lefties. Just a dominant player. One of the best in the game as far as his position at shortstop. Look at those Reds for his hitting ability. Look at those home runs. He's just been solid throughout his career. Yes, he's played in Colorado, but that $13.8 million contract is up at the end of this year, and he's going to want paid, and our president of baseball operations doesn't want to pay. So we're going to send Trevor Story to the Cincinnati Reds. He's going to hit it in that ballpark. He's going to have a field day with that. So what are the prospects I get back? I get 18-year-old Patrick Dwyer. He's got C potential, but he's already 72, and he's only 18 years old. He plays the outfield. He plays catcher. Look at those bars. I love his vision. I love his power and his contact. For an 18-year-old, he looks like the kind of prospect that we can build around. I'm going to keep him in the minors as long as I can. And then we get a top 50 prospect in the pitcher Hunter Green. Look at that symbol. He's a top 50 prospect. He's only 20 years old. He's a 66A. I like his stamina already. I like his velocity. He throws a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. I think Hunter Green is a pitcher, once again, that we can build on. Especially, I like the fact he's a top 50 prospect and he's only 20 years old. Those are the 2 big prospects that we're going to get back for Trevor Story. One more prospect we are also going to get, but he's really pretty much a throw-in. That's Andy Faraday. He's going to be a starting pitcher. Not much to see here. 47D, 22-year-old. Then he's just a warm body to have in our single A's, just in case we have a starting pitcher that goes out. So not much to see there, but I wanted to get the most value out of this trade as possible. But clearly the big dogs here were Patrick Dwyer and Hunter Green. We offered the trade to the Reds, and they accept it. So congratulations, Trevor Story. You are going to probably crank out some home runs there in Great America Ballpark. The second trade we had was for Charlie Blackmon. And while I love Charlie Blackmon's skills, and he has put up just amazing numbers for Colorado, he's at an age where it's just time to move on. His salary was the second biggest one. So when I rolled, I had 5 teams: the Diamondbacks, the A's, the Royals, the Tigers, and the Twins. And I decided to trade him away to the American League to the A's. He made a lot of sense there. And so let's take a look at what I got back in return. So taking a look at Charlie Blackmon, 34 years old, B, 81 overall. He has just been a fantastic player. I've always admired Charlie Blackmon and what he's brought to the Colorado Rockies. As a Cardinal fan, I wanted them to get him years ago. Instead, they went and got Dexter Fowler. That didn't work out so well for us. Look at this, career 304 hitter. Yes, you might say some of that is related to being in Colorado, but still, $18 million for 3 years a piece is just not going to be in our plans. So we're going to ship him off to the Oakland Athletics, and the Athletics are going to, in return, give us a 20-year-old A potential 60 pitcher. Yes, he's only a 60A, 20 years old. It may not seem like that big of a return on investment, but we're just getting rid of that contract, and so we're going to get Juan Quintana. Come join the Colorado Rockies and our rebuilding starting pitching staff. The third trade, and this is not one that I'm really bothered by, is for Ian Desmond. He is way aged out for MLB The Show. They call him a center fielder, but he is way too slow and old to play that position anymore. I had 5 teams: Marlins, White Sox, Royals, Giants, and Yankees, and I ship him off to the White Sox without hesitation. You may not think I get a lot back here, but I just want to get rid of his contract because it was huge. Let's take a look at the deal that I got. So, Ian Desmond, 35 years old. He's already dropped down to a 71C. He's past his prime. He still has that 82 power from the left-hand side, or against lefties, so that is pretty impressive. But, look at his career. He's had a fine career in the MLB. I mean, 181 home runs. He's probably going to end up hitting over 200 home runs in his career. I mean, that's a pretty good deal. He's made a nice living for himself. We are going to get back, this is a salary job, we're going to get back Michael Kopech. I really like what he's got here. He's only 24 years old. Yeah, he's only 62B, but I like that 99 mile an hour fastball that he can get up to and the 96 mile an hour two-seam. So he's only had one season in the majors, and I really think Michael Kopech could be a project. They're calling him a relief pitcher, but with that 72 stamina, when he comes over to Colorado, he can be a starter for us. So we're going to make him a starter and see what he can do in the minor leagues, and who knows, maybe one day he can come up. He's only 24. I have a lot of hope for Michael Kopech, and he is now a Colorado Rocky. Now, unfortunately, the next two trades, these people were not that big a salary, but they just happened to be the two biggest salaries that were left on the team. So I would have loved if we only had to trade away those three players, even though I love Charlie Blackmon and Trevor Story, but these two contracts were the next two biggest ones, so I had to get rid of them. German Marquez, he would have been my ace starting pitcher, but I have to get rid of him. I had the Angels, the Brewers, the Braves, the Diamondbacks, and the Reds to trade, and I went with the Brewers. So let's take a look at, sadly, what we got back in return for German Marquez. So German Marquez, I mean, he's in his prime. He's an 80B, 26-year-old. I hated to get rid of him, especially with that 97 mile an hour fastball and the knuckle curve. That would have been a fun pitcher to keep. He's had a great career so far for Colorado, 42-30. I mean, look at those seasons, 14-11 and then 12-5 in 2019. Great career so far, but he's getting shipped off. And in return, I'm going to get back some positions that I needed depth in. When I looked at my roster, I didn't have a lot of good catcher depth and a lot of second base depth. So we're going to get 22-year-old 65B Peyton Henry. Nothing there blows you away, but I definitely needed some young catching depth, which I didn't have in my current system. And then I threw in Rod Penn as second baseman. Once again, a 54C 23-year-old is not going to blow anybody away, especially with those numbers being that low. But he was a throw-in, and I needed depth at second base for our minors. So I threw in Rod Penn, and congratulations. German Marquez is now a Brewer, and now we have those two pieces on our rebuilding squad. And the final trade is for John Gray, another starting pitcher. He would have been my number 2 in the rotation. 5 teams were interested here: the Pirates, the Brewers, the Rays, the Indians, and the Padres, and I shipped him off to the Indians. So let's see what we got in return for John Gray. So looking at John Gray, 77 overall, 29-year-old C pitcher at a $6 million contract, and he has 5 pitches, which would have been nice, but he was on the last year of his deal. When you look at his career in Colorado, 45-37 overall, his career record, so a fine starter, and he would have been nice to have in the rotation, but this is a rebuild, and since he is in the last year of his deal, we decided to make a move, and so we traded for 2 players. We traded for a third baseman, Nolan Jones. He is a 60B 21-year-old. When I look at him, once again, nothing right there is too crazy, but I wanted to have a third baseman, and so he bats on the left-hand side as well, and he's young. And then the other person that we wanted to get, once again, starting pitching, I found Logan Allen, a 59A overall potential, a 22-year-old, and he throws on the left side, so I wanted a lefty starter, and he's got A potential at a 59, and he's still pretty young at 59 or at 22 years old, so we made the deal for those 2 prospects. Then we were going to simulate the 1 week, and so we went ahead and simmed this week, and at the end of the week, we ended up being 1-3, so at least we have 1 win. For the second random event of spring training, it is hitting coach training. Your hitting coach worked with some position players that are on the spring training roster. Go into the training section and change the training focus of the number of players based on the number you roll for the quality of your hitting coach. Then simulate 1 week. My hitting coach is a C-, so I got to roll a D7, and I rolled a 5. So here are the results of the training focus changes that I made. I actually rolled a 6, not a 5 now that I think about it. So my first change is for Scott Oberg. He's going to be my closer, so I wanted him to have bullpen session. I wanted him to work on that pitching clutch. Next up, I want Garrett Hampson, our corner piece right now for our team. He's going to be hitting the batting cages when I see that contact go up. And then my quote ace is Austin Gomber, who we got in the trade for Nolan Arenado. He's going to go to pitching coach session. I want him working on that. And then Sam Hilliard, who's going to be our starting right fielder most likely. I want him working on his contact. Those 45-35 numbers are awfully low. And then for Raimel Tapia, playing center field in Coors Field, that is a huge field, and 70 speed, I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to put him on sprints to see if we can't get his speed to go up just a bit. And then the next decision I tried to make is I thought, you know what, even though he's not on the Major League roster right now, I want Patrick Dwyer, our corner piece in that trade for Trevor Story. I want him working on the batting cages. I want him moving up that contact as well. And then the final person that I wanted to improve is I want to see Ryan McMahon go up, and I want to see him improve. I want him to hit the weight room and be our power hitter. So those are the 6 changes that I made. So we're going to sim another week and see how it goes. We got a busy week, all 7 days we're playing, so let's see how it goes. All right, we got 4 wins that week out of 7 games. Not bad. Gotta like to see that. So overall, let's take a look at how we're doing as we approach the end of the second week of spring training. When we take a look at our record, let's look at that. We are 5-6, so you can't be too bad with that. For the third random event of spring training, this is naming a team captain. You decide to name a team captain, then label the player roster sheet to state that he is a team captain, add a D100 to his player morale, and add a D6 to his potential. During the season, however, if your team trades this player or sends this player down to the minors, subtract a D100 from your coach's approval rating with the fans and a D100 from your coach's approval rating with the players. Then simulate a week. Ooh, that you definitely want to choose your captain wisely. You don't want to put him on the program for your team and then all of a sudden he's traded or shipped away, or else the fans and the players on the team will be what's going on with this team. So I decided that the bedrock of our team right now is Garrett Hampson playing second base, so I named him our team captain, and when I rolled, he gained a 20 in player morale and a 3 in potential. So we look at Garrett Hampson, you're going from a 90 potential to a 93 potential. You like to see that. Want to see him continue to progress. 76A, 26-year-old, I think he can be a cornerstone for us for years to come in this rebuild. As we simulate the rest of this week, we're going to simulate to the 20th here. We start out with 2 wins in a row, followed by 2 losses, and then another win to the Reds, and then finish out the week with another win. So we're now 9-8. So the next random event in spring training is spring training contract extensions. Your GM works on some contract extensions. Based on your GM's rating, you can extend the contracts of several players in your team, then simulate a week. My GM is an A-, so I was able to extend 5 players. Here are those extensions. All right, so we're looking at contract extensions here. First of all, we're going to look at CJ Cron. You know, he is a 77C. He's 31 years old, so I didn't want to give him a huge extension, but I do see him as playing first base for us for the next couple of years as a veteran, and I do like his power, and I like his contact against lefties. So I am going to want to re-sign him for an extension, but I don't want to sign him for the deal that he wants. So what I decided to do is drop it down to a 3-year extension, and I was hoping that he would take that. And then I changed my mind and decided to go with 2 years instead. So 2 more years for CJ Cron with his extension. And then he was wanting to get $4.5 million. So I was hoping that maybe if I gave him every day and I gave him a 3-year deal, with that 3rd year being a club option, that maybe that's the way I could go. So that way on that 3rd year, I could sign him if I wanted to have him. And then I decided that wasn't going to be enough money. So let's bump him up. And $4.3 million over the next 3 years is going to be something that he'll accept. So then my next contract extension is going to be our captain, Garrett Hampson. He's only he's a 76A overall, and he's only 26 years old, and he's only asking for platoon, and for us, he's more than a platoon. Yeah, that 97 speed is something that I'm liking, so I'm going to call him an everyday player. I didn't want to go quite star because I'm hoping that I didn't want to force him into that role, but I definitely think he's going to be our everyday second baseman for years to come. And with that 97 speed, I love having that on this team. So we're going to give him a 5-year extension, and he's wanting, you know, the annual value is probably $7.4 million is what he's asking for, and I'm going to bump that up to a nice, cool $8 million a year over 5 years. And that'll make it a $40 million contract, and he likes that. So congratulations, he is signed for a nice long extension. Since he is our captain, I wanted to make sure he was happy, and so I overpaid him just a bit. And we do have a lot of salary now that we've made some of those trades. The next extension I'm going to offer is for Michael Gibbons. He's 30 years old. He is one of our better relievers, though, and so I wanted to make sure we have someone in the bullpen that I can count on. So I was going to throw to him a 3-year extension, He's wanting $2.4 million, but I'm thinking this team, to get his interest up, because if you notice his interest bar was low, I'm going to throw in and make it a $3 million deal, but that third year a club option, and he didn't like that, so I had to go back and I had to renegotiate a little bit more and give him that deal. And you'll notice here he is not going to accept this one either, so he is definitely playing hardball with the Rockies, and so he didn't like that deal either, so I finally bumped it up. Next up, I decided to hold off on Austin Gomber for now. I'm probably going to come back to him, but I decided, you know what, I would rather deal with some other players first. So I decided to go ahead and go to Sam Hilliard. 74B. You know, he is 27 years old. I like the fact that he bats from the left side. And I do like his pop. Now, his contact awfully low, but look at that speed. He combines 93 speed with 74 pop against right-handed pitchers. I definitely like that. And all he wants is platoon. He's actually a relatively cheap price tag for us. And so I wanted to go ahead and offer a 3-year extension. And I kept him in the platoon role because I figure, you know, maybe somebody else will come in and can bat against left-handed pitchers. So I went ahead and went with the club option, and he liked that. So I have him signed. And then the 5th and final extension I decided to go with, I went back and forth. I decided to go ahead and go back up to Austin Gomber as our ace. You know, I don't want him sitting there thinking that he's going to not be signed. I don't want him in limbo. So I went ahead and signed Austin Gomber for the 5th and final extension. Now, he is looking for only $2.9 million a year. And I said, no, you can be the rotation. So that bumped up his interest. And then I asked for, hey, what about a club option for that 3rd year? And so we can get him for 2 years and then have that 3rd year as a club option in case he doesn't do well. You know, he is a lefty. And in the major leagues, having a left-handed starting pitcher is always helpful. And then he's only looking for $1.4 million. So I bumped it up. And then I actually front load the contract, so if I don't like him near the end there, he's not as expensive, and we can afford his salary at this point. So I front-loaded the contract, and we got Austin Gomber as the final contract extension piece for this team. And now we're going to simulate this next week in spring training. And we didn't do so well. We only got 2 wins that week, but we're nearing the end of spring training. And the final 5th random event for spring training is scout assessment. Your GM gives you the go-ahead to, quote, balance the scouting system by making sure there is 1 scout for each region. You have permission to hire and fire to have 1 scout in each region, then simulate a week. This doesn't give me the permission to fire someone who I think is not very good, but it does give me the permission to fire someone if I've got like 2 scouts in a certain place. I can fire one of them and replace them with someone better in the region that wasn't represented. So let's take a look at what I did with my scouting assessment. So when we look at our scouts, we have some not very good scouts. But one thing we do have are 2 scouts in the West. And so I'm going to fire Alan Hernandez because he's the 2nd scout in the West that isn't very good. And I'm going to replace him with the scouting place we don't have, which is the East. So we're going to hire Aaron Sands. He is one of the more expensive scouts, but we definitely need that because some of our other scouts are not very effective. So now Aaron Sands joins the squad, and I'm hoping that he will get us some good discovery for prospects that we need. Looking at the international prospect scout, we don't have a very good one. We have an okay one in the Central, and then in the West, we have a pretty good one as well. So taking a look at the rest of the spring training, we closed by losing the last 3. Let's take a look at how we did in spring training. Our leadoff man, Garrett Hampson, our team captain, he batted .304. Love it. Casey Golden, our top 50 prospect, only batted .145. I'm probably not going to bat him in the 2-hole based on that performance. CJ Cron batted .265 with 3 home runs and 9 RBIs in the 3 spot. I'm pretty happy with that. Ryan McMahon struggled. He did have the 3 home runs, but he only batted .162, which is concerning. Sam Hilliard only batted .215 and only had 1 home run. Not real happy with that. Raymel Tapia batted .267, so I think I'm going to bat him in the 2nd spot since he's a lefty, and I'm going to move him, switch him to Casey Golden. Matt Adams, DHing, only hit .205. Our catcher only hit .194, not real good. And then Brendan Rodgers hit .170, so a lot of low averages in spring training. Hope to pick those up in the regular season. Now let's take a look at our pitching rotation, which I thought actually did much better than I was expecting. Gomber went 2-2 with a 3.77 ERA. Sensatella went 2-2 with a 2 ERA and a 1.15 WHIP. Very pleased with Antonio Sensatella. Kyle Freeland went 2-4 with a 5.86 ERA, not so good. Derek Rodriguez, for a 69 overall, had a 2.95 ERA, which you'll take definitely. And 64 overall, Chichi Gonzalez had a 4.5 ERA. What can you expect for a guy that's a 64 overall? So I thought our starting pitching staff, I thought was a strength in our spring training. Well, there you have it. Spring training for the Colorado Rockies in MLB The Show 21. Our next episode, we're going to have opening day. I am so excited. I hope you are too. If you haven't already, smash that like button and tell a friend the Colorado Rockies are in a rebuild. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.